Hey everyone, I'm excited to bring to you Leo Familia. This is episode 60 of the Davidson Hang podcast. My goal is to introduce you to interesting people, expand your worldview, and give you a different perspective on life. And I'm excited to have you here. We met because Leo, he does a lot of different things, but one of his part-time gigs is he's a doorman in my building, and I think it's such a fascinating job that you have, and one of your many cool things that you do, because you probably meet like so many different people, and like you get to like interact with like a lot of different. So yeah, and I always found our conversations like enlightening and I feel like you're like pretty philosophical and you have I feel like you have like a lot of different perspectives because of the books you read and just like the experiences that you've gone through in life. So yeah, I'm really excited to learn more about universal expressions and would love to learn. I mean, I'm sure it's extremely hard to play collegiate basketball as well. So would love to learn, um, about your journey there. And yeah, and I'm excited to have you here. Thanks for coming.
I appreciate it, Dave. I, I'm excited. I'm excited to share with the world. My different approach on how I was able to succeed in many facets of life, and how I was able to maintain myself um, through my journey. A lot of times it's tough to sit up here and balance out so many things. I'm a doorman, I'm a personal trainer, I'm a teacher, I'm a mentor. People ask me, where do I find the time to sleep?
Yeah.
And the most difficult part about it is that, being hungry for success is wonderful. That's what keeps me going. But at the same time, it could be detrimental because there's no balance of sleep. Sometimes I get 3 hours of sleep a day,
Wow.
4, it might be 2, I might be up for 36 hours and I sleep 4 and then I'm up another 16. So
Crazy.
yeah, so it's all about, I'm sorry.
I was gonna ask you, so the lighting is a little bit weird. I don't know if there's a place you can move to because yeah, yeah. I don't know if there's a sorry.
Gotcha. No, don't worry about it.
We want to see your beautiful face, you know what I mean? So there you go. Yeah, yeah. Okay. That's better.
Yeah, so I just find a lot of things in life, interesting. I use every part of life, whether it's negative, whether it's a distraction. I use every little single thing to assess myself. And the most important thing to me in life is self-awareness, because you have to understand yourself and your surroundings. But um, all in all, like basically what I'm trying to say is just the fact that right now, with everything happening, self-awareness is probably the most important thing. With all the jobs that I have, everything, like how to balance my studying, because I am going for my master's in Drexel University in education, so that's tough balancing those things out.
Yeah, yeah. And when I found out that you commute all the way from Philly over here, I was like, whoa, that's crazy. But that's good, man. I mean, clearly, it's a timely conversation, especially with what's going on. Right. But for me, it's interesting to see how white people are acknowledging their privilege. Like for me, I've never seen that before. And the fact that people are starting to do that, I was like, wow, like maybe there is going to be change. Like, we'll see.
Right. It's interesting, Dave, about what the time that's going on. Everybody uses these labels. I find them very fascinating.
Hmm.
Oh, racism, prejudice. You have all these isms, but the thing that we don't address is that these things are cognitive biases,
Hmm.
and we don't look at them like that because they're labels. And when we have these biases, a lot of times we don't look at ourselves,
Hmm.
and cognitive biases have to do with ourselves. A lot of people, when it comes down to whatever religion, race, or ethnic group, the number one problem that I feel like the world has is that it's a cognitive dissonance. We don't want to acknowledge, we hold these beliefs so dear
Mm.
that we don't know how to relinquish them to open up to new things.
Mm.
And this is what led me kind of like to open up my business with Universal Expressions, because in my business there is no labels. It's just you as the individual. Now I remember Dave, you had said that you're Vietnamese background, correct? What do we do in America or in just in life? We use stereotypes to distinguish different ethnic groups. So an example, we'll classify you as an Asian man, and then we'll start making stereotype. Oh, Asian man, he's smart, he has money. We put you in this box already without even getting to know you or ask you questions to how you even operate. And it's interesting, throughout my years, I have had Asian clients, and I have these open conversations with them. My mind is blown because the stereotype of Asian people just studying and working hard and getting degrees. A lot of people don't know is that they bust their ass like hours and hours upon hours to get those grades and that degree. They're not just born smart, they're just not born like, with all these things. They literally work for it day in and day out. Like, so a lot of times we don't sit up here and acknowledge those little things that people do. And, getting up in the morning, studying your ass off on the train, studying when you get to work, studying, and you still have to maintain yourself in life. You have to eat, do all these things. But yeah, the first thing that we do, we don't acknowledge none of that stereotype, put Dave in a box. This is just what it is. I don't have time to get to know him. Put him in a box. Asian man, this is what it is.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's right to do that.
That's true. I remember like one of the things that like made me so angry. I was working at a company where there was a girl who I think like she was like Native American descent, but I remember she was like, I felt so downplayed because she's like, what are you talking about? She's like, Asians, like you guys are all rich, like you never had to go through like adversity, like not at a systematic. And I was just like, damn, like that hurt, I was like,
Yeah, right.
yeah, like I actually lived off of food stamps, and like I worked like 40 hours a week while going to school, like getting my, like in college and for my master's. Like I was working like 40 hours a week while getting my MBA too, so it's like, but then it's like, why do I have to feel like I have to explain myself? You know what I mean? Like, so I was kind of just like, all right, like, I get it, because she was talking about like systematically. She's like, yeah, like statistically speaking, like you guys make the most money out of all the minorities, right? And I was like, I'm like, yeah, but like I didn't grow up like that. You know what I mean? Like my parents never owned a house, like single parent. Like my mom does nails for a living. She's not even working right now. You know what I mean? So it's like it's painful when people do put you in a box. But to your point, like sometimes I put people in a box too. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I see someone who's white who, like it looks like they come from money, and then I get to know them, and I'm like, oh, okay, like you actually grew up in an abusive household. Like I would never have thought that until I got to know them on a deeper level.
Right. But the most beautiful thing about you saying that is the fact that you're honest about it. See, a lot of people will go outside and say, I never put anybody in a box.
Mm.
I've never done this. I've never been a racist. I've never been a prejudiced person. I've never done these things. To me, I'm sorry, Dave, that's bullshit. Because at the end of the day, a lot of things are already made in the household. Your parents already taught you how to do certain things that you're not even aware of. I come from a Dominican and Italian background, where we're literally laughing at half the world in our houses. We're taking stereotypes and we're literally taking them inside of our household and laughing all day at it. And the thing, the thing that's tough is unlearning all of those things. When you leave your household to go into college and you remove yourself from that household. And the sad part about it is that when you're done with college, you have to go back home and educate your house. You have to rebuild
Exactly.
that house.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry to say, my mother was ignorant, and I had to correct her several times. I had to correct my aunts and my brothers and sisters sometimes, like, hey, that what you're saying is, offensive, and you're not educated on that. Let me help you understand what that is.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, when I was growing up, I can be honest, I was a little bit prejudiced and all these things because I learned that in the household. I learned that from my peers that were older than me. Hey, don't, like, black guy in a hoodie, walk away because he has a gun on him. Hey, white man over there, he's doing this and that, third, and this is just what it is. Hispanic man, he's gonna rob me because he has a knife and he carries a switchblade in his mouth. Oh, Asian man doesn't like black people, so he's gonna poison your food at the Chinese restaurant, and it's so forth and so forth. It goes on and on and on, because in order for you to get to know somebody, you have to destroy your boundaries and your barriers that you're putting yourself around, that you don't even know subconsciously you put yourself in there.
Yeah. I, yeah.
So
I think you're right. I think most people like deny the fact that they have biases, right? Like
right.
they'd be like, my parents taught me to never ever like shit. Like at the end of the day,
Bullshit.
like yeah, because I mean, even to, like speaking for myself, like my parent, like a lot of Asians, like to your point, like maybe like I get it, like maybe they had some bad experiences, like my dad was robbed at one point and stuff like that, and so like all right, I get it, but like dude, like that was 30 years ago, like you gotta like get it, but like if there's something happens to you 30, 40 years ago, like it's kind of time to move on, like I don't know.
But it's tough too, because it's how do you move on when the stereotypes keep living on to those things. I'm
Right.
sorry to say, the number one thing that I've noticed throughout this protest and the riots is that, to me, I grew up in Marcy Projects, the same place where Jay-Z came from. I've literally, like, I feel like an adopted child of America. I've got to be in every single culture and understand, because I've, like, being born and raised in New York, I got the opportunity to see so many facets of life.
Mm.
So going back, to what I was saying, like, we have these stereotypes that we kind of still live up to. The whole Black Lives Matter. Yeah, Black lives do matter, but you have to make them matter first within yourself.
Mm.
If you're sitting up here saying Black Lives Matter, but you're during the protest, you're robbing another black person, you're killing another black person, how are you showing the world that Black Lives Matter? If you have to make yourself matter first. You have to understand self first. Who are you to say, hey, Black Lives Matter, then you go outside, rob the next black guy, or you do, you're bringing more of a traumatic experience to the Black Lives Matter movement because you're just adding more destruction to it.
Yeah,
You
yeah, I think it starts with the self. I guess like what made you like curious about the self? Because honestly, a lot of us, like even in New York, like growing up in New York, and I feel like you can kind of get distracted by like you can always keep yourself busy, right? But like,
Yeah.
but what made you kind of like curious? Like, all right, I got to learn about myself and my biases and my cognitive like like I guess like because not everyone takes that inner journey, right? I think it's easier to kind of distract ourselves by looking externally, but a lot of times I feel like we don't look deep enough inside of ourselves.
Well, like, yeah, because the thing about it is, Dave, the hardest thing that when you're dealing with yourself is the truth.
Mm.
And acknowledging other people's opinions. What I do with people's opinions is that, yes, I take them in consideration, but I use what's important in that opinion. I don't grab the whole thing and live by that person's opinion. So if you say to me, hey, Leo, I think that what you said to that person was messed up, and the way that you said it affected their day, okay, I heard everything that you said, but what I'm gonna take is, how did I affect them? How did where did I go wrong? And then I'll take that and internally process that, because at the end of the day, I work with kids, I work with teachers, I work with so many different forms of life. I'm a doorman. I deal with literally 150 people coming out of a building for 8 hours, looking at them from morning, sometimes all the way till night. I work from midnight to 8 in the morning, sometimes from 8 to 4. I work throughout all parts of the day. So I have to literally educate myself because there are educated people that I'm working with as well. So I can't be ignorant in a setting where people are educated. And especially coming from the projects, I already have a stereotype against me. Hey, he's coming from the projects, he's dumb, he don't know what he's talking about. You know, he should have been like, you know, I'm not supposed to be here, Dave. You know, I'm not supposed to be in college, graduating. I was supposed to be a gang member. I was supposed to fit the stereotype. I wasn't supposed to articulate myself like this. You know, I wasn't supposed to be where I'm at. That's why I took that journey, was because I wanted to destroy every generational curse, every boundary that stopped me from becoming who I'm supposed to be. And the number one thing that I had to acknowledge was the fact of, what is the truth? What is the truth for you and what is it for me? Because what your perspective is, Dave, is not going to be my perspective. But what is in the middle? And that's what made me always go inside. How am I going to get to the middle? So I have to acknowledge myself and know that, hey, Leo, you got a lot of fucked up shit about you. Fix those things. Look for help. Stop having this huge ego to say that, like, I'm bigger than anything. I don't need help. I don't need to see anything. I can do it myself. No, my brother, everybody needs help in this world. Everybody. You can trust me. I tried to go on that journey for 4 to 5 years of just, man, I don't need nobody. I can do it. You need people. You need the right people. You need educated people, and you need people that are self-aware to help you gain awareness. You can't go on a journey by yourself, take 2 steps and say, I made it far. No good.
Yeah, there's a lot you just said there. Yeah, it kind of reminds me, I remember at one point I used to be like, I don't need anybody. Like, I remember it was like when I was like trying to pay for college by myself, and like I was just like, you know what, like, because when my dad wasn't around, I was angry at the world, right? So I was kind of like, you know what, I'm going to show the world that I don't need anybody. I can make it on my own. But the irony was, like, the more I went on myself, the more depressed I was. And then I realized, okay, actually, like, the world is, you know, there's so many people around me, right? And why am I afraid to receive help? And then when I finally was able to receive help, like, and let people in, I was like, wow, okay, now I see it, right? Like, we're all one. Where I used to be like, yeah, well, you know, like, I don't need them. Like, they're like my past, right? Like, you know, they're people that I should like not talk to anymore. But then the further up I went, I guess, like, as I got promoted, as I started making more money, I was like, actually, like, I need to integrate everything, because I feel like, you know, to accept the truth, right? It's like the facts is, like, you know, I do have a mother, like, I do have a sister, I do have sisters, I do have family, and the more I ignored them, the more like sad I got, because I was like, actually, like, that's not what it's about, you know. So
Right. So yeah, but see, but once again, you see these things, Dave. You're seeing them, and that's the number one thing too. That some people see them and just ignore it,
right.
and you know, ignorant, like the word ignorant, right? I like to break down words a lot. So for me, you know, the interesting thing is, you know, what happens when somebody goes on a rant, Dave? They just spew, right? They're just all ranting. But now let's throw the word ignore in front of rant. So now what's in front of you, you're ignoring, but imagine you're taking the ignoring part and you're making that into a rant. So now you're ignoring so many facets of life because your cup is full. A lot of people's cups, they're full. A lot of people are scared to empty that cup because they don't know when the next cup, they don't know when the next they don't know when the next cup of water is going to come. So if you have an empty glass, you're always going to be afraid of, hey, when is the water coming? But you have to understand, with patience, imagine if you left the cup outside and it didn't rain for 10 days. Are you gonna discredit the cup because it's not raining anymore? See, that's the thing that a lot of times I had to find myself where I would want more water and my cup is already full and I'm getting angry because,
Hmm.
hey, I can't hold anymore. I can't hold anymore, but I want more. And I had to realize that another thing too, I had to be submissive
Hmm.
to a lot of things. Submission is probably the hardest thing I think I've had to endure in my 28 years of existence on earth because a lot of times you don't know who to trust. You don't know, like, an example, I'm like, training people. When they come to me, it's tough for them to trust me because they already tried so many different things.
Uh,
What makes you think that me coming to you is going to be any different than the next person? And so, in order for that to happen, I need to be submissive and open to that person to let them know, hey, you're not just coming to any trainer. I've studied kinesiology for a long time. I experimented on myself several times. I was literally one time, Dave, 180 pounds and went to 230 pounds just to show how effective the workouts are. And the workouts aren't just exercises. They're exercises on your daily life, like little routines. Waking up in the morning. Can you wake up at 5:30 in the morning for 2 or 3 times a week? Can you adjust these little things? It's not just about doing 100 push-ups, 100 squats,
hmm.
doing this, and those are mechanical things. Training involves psychological things. It involves physical, and it involves the spirit, your drive. And a lot of times, you know, the results are where, a lot of people work out, they like to see the results because it's like, oh, uh, like the work is finally shown. See, so how do we get there and acknowledge how we get there, if that makes sense? And the little things, like I said, waking up early, knowing that instead of eating that bagel in the morning, let's try some fruit. I'm not saying, hey, change yourself completely because I'm not perfect. I eat like a pack of Gushers here and there. Like, I might eat a slice of bread here and there. I'm not perfect, but my habits are almost damn nearly there. So, the point I'm trying to make overall is just the fact that the self, once you acknowledge yourself, everything else will fall into place.
Hmm. And then you mentioned there's a spiritual component to changing yourself as well. I've never heard of it from that way. Like, can you explain a little bit more about what you mean by that?
Absolutely. So, everybody has a passion. Everybody has a drive. When we ask, Dave, when they ask you, hey, Dave, what is your passion? What do you tell people? What is your passion?
I like doing podcasts. I like sharing people's stories. Lately, I've been doing a lot of workshops, like more like, like meditation and like I like a lot of mentorship. I help high
Right.
schoolers, college students, like young professionals, kind of like change their worldviews.
Right. Now, those are all great things, but what drives you to do those things?
Yeah, I would say like just giving back to society. Like I guess like I get a sense of satisfaction when I'm volunteering, when I'm helping the youth. Like I think the younger people are, the easier it is for them to change their perspectives. Because I feel like like for me, like older people, like the older we get, the more set in our ways we are. So it's hard for me to like mentor and to help someone who is like 70 years old, right? Versus like a 16-year-old who will be more receptive to feedback.
Right. So now, with all that being said, that's that's the spiritual component. You just said part of it. Now, to add to what you said, what a lot of times what we fail to realize is, yeah, we have a goal, but the process of the goal, to me as an individual, is more important than the goal, because the goal is the outcome.
Mm.
It's the when we have the equation 2 + 2 = 4, the outcome is the 4. But what are the 2 + 2? Like where do we get what we need to get the outcome? Now, the spiritual component is the drive. For me, what drives me to be who I am in the personal training field and in the fitness world, I want to prevent myself from going to the doctor as much as I can. That's what drives me. I have never been in a hospital for any illness, any diseases.
Wow.
The only time I've been in the hospital is for a basketball or boxing related injury where I kind of overtrained a lot. And, the doctor literally says, hey, man, I'm going to prescribe you some muscle relaxers because you don't know how to calm down. And, once upon a time, Dave, I used to overtrain. And my drive, that's another thing too, you can overdrive. You have to know the middle. Because I'm taking these vitamins, I'm doing this, I'm running, I'm working out. You can overdrive and hurt yourself. And so, like I said, like the drive for me is that, when I see people, there's a couple of people in my family that are diabetic, have heart problems. I also, the thing that drives me is that I want to change the generational curses in my family. So when the genetics are passed down into my child, when I have one, I can prevent, them having high blood pressure or low blood pressure. Those are the things that drive me. I want the lineage of the things that I have, I would like to change because I'm the first, like, there's only about 2 or 3 people in my family that are changing the genetical code in my family. Out of 40 people in my family, only 3 of us are really into fitness, working out, doing all these things. So that means 37 other people they're just in the same life. They're in the same light. They're not changing anything. So that's what drives me. That's the spiritual component, the fire, the why. Why are you doing this, Leo? And I'm doing it because, like I said, I'm very grateful and honored at the fact that I've never been in the hospital for diabetes, high blood pressure, hypertension, or being overstressed. And I have said this multiple times before. The number one thing that's going to help you understand your drive spiritually in fitness is that your health comes first. Number one thing, I don't care how big your job is. I don't care how big anything in your life is. The number one thing that comes first is you and your health. Because without your health, you can't do a job. You can't do any of those things.
Yeah.
You need your health. To me, my health is everything. When my friends tell me, oh, Leo, let's go to a club, or let's do this and let's do that. I'm sorry, my brother. I'm not going there because that's affecting my health. If I'm going to stay at a club till 4 o'clock in the morning and I got to get up for work at 6, absolutely not. I'm sorry. You can hate me later on, but my health is going to take me to a place that club can't. The longevity to me is important. And so I'm not going to destroy what I've built for a moment of pleasure. I'm sorry.
That's awesome. I love that. I guess like what do you think? Because I do notice like even there's a lot of old school Asians. I think like I was born in the US, so like I prioritize my health a lot more. But I do notice like, my aunts and uncles and my, like basically all the generations that are older than I am, at least in Asian culture, I feel like I noticed like they don't really care about, it seems like they don't care about their health as much as like we do, like the younger generation, right? Like, I guess like, how do we help people without seeming so like pushy, because I do think like everyone, I think more people are like, oh, when it gets to a point where it's too late, I'll do something about it, right? It seems like whenever they get that diagnosis, it's like, yeah, you might be at risk for like type 2 diabetes. Then people like start to change. It's like, dude, like now it's almost too late, like why, like, I don't know. For me, like it's frustrating because I was a community nutrition major in college. So this is like important to me, but I often find like it's really hard for people to like I feel like people just don't care about their health. Like, I don't know. It's like, yeah.
It's interesting, right? Because I get that, I get those type of scenarios a lot, and I get those statements a lot. Leo, like, what do you recommend for people that, change at a late or a time where it's gonna affect them? I say to that is you have to be the example in a small way. You can't present something to someone and and expect them to change, because at the end of the day, change is scary for a lot of people.
Yeah.
What we have normalized through time. Imagine, Dave, you're 70 years old. I've come out of nowhere. I'm like, hey, if you take vitamin E, it's gonna change. It's gonna change how you're living. And for 70 years, you already have these habits. You're stuck in your ways, and all of this. Now, how do you implement that? Now, you have, like I said, you're 70. You have all these things. How do you implement that? You start taking the vitamin in front of them. You leave it around subconsciously. You want to show them, oh, he's using vitamin E. His skin, his nails are changing. Okay. Then they ask, hey, how does it work? People start asking you, how does it work? And so, like, it's interesting. I had a client recently, that has hypertension, has blockages in their arteries and all this stuff. And, they tell me, like, my doctor says I need to work out and change my diet and all these things, but I'm scared of the of food that they're telling me about and all these things. And I said to them, you have 365 days a year. Like, yeah, if you could take a block a day, just a block, meaning instead of drinking 4 cans of Sprite a day, drink 3. Instead of eating this big bowl of rice a day, have half that bowl. I'm not saying change instantly right away.
Yeah.
Condition your habits into becoming a better person. Risk. See, a lot of people don't want to take the risk on becoming better neither, because they're already comfortable in the conditions that they're already in. The biggest thing I always see people, the biggest fear that I see people shy away from is uncomfortability. Oh, no, that's uncomfortable. It's weird. It's different. Whoa. No way.
Wow.
It was interesting, so, my first experience with that, to be honest with you, I remember a Jamaican guy up in Flatbush, Brooklyn, introduced me to Irish sea moss. Irish sea moss has 92 minerals out of 102 that the body needs.
Whoa. Huh.
Right. So I'm like, it's like this seaweed, algae kind of plant that comes from the sea. And I'm like, whoa, what is that? No way, cross, I'm good, I'm all set with that. So I started doing my research, because one day I felt fatigue and I just kept feeling tired. I tried everything. Like, I was trying the vitamins, trying water, the working out, everything. So I just started doing my research, and like, what I started doing? I kind of started taking it by myself without telling my friends, telling my family members, because I was kind of scared to get judged about it. Like, oh, he's taking sea moss now. Now all of a sudden, he thinks things are gonna change. So what I did was, I remember it was 2011. I was a freshman in college, and when I was taking the sea moss, I had made an agreement with myself and a pledge that I was gonna try it for 90 days, no matter what. No matter what, I was gonna try it. Even if I risked myself, like, because I didn't know a lot about it, I just kept researching it. Even if I risked myself going to the hospital, whatever the case may be, I'm gonna try it, because I'm willing to risk this from the better sake of myself. So come to find out, Dave, 90 days went by. I'm glowing. My skin is feeling great. I'm feeling great. I feel like cognitively, my brain is like the best it's ever been. And ever since, I receive moss.
That's funny. Yeah, I feel like we all have that moment, right? Like, it's so funny because, like, my fiance, like, she'd be like, "But I told you this. You never listened to me." Like, it's always like, for me, like, there's people always say something, and then I'm like, yeah. I think there was a book called Never Eat Alone that, like, I swear to God, like 6 people recommended to me, and I was like, I'm good. Like I already know that stuff, you know. It was about like how to build relationships and how to create like your own events, like host your own events so that you bring people together like a community. It was basically how to build a community. And I was like, I'm a pro at this. Like I don't need this book. And then like I remember after like 5 years, I was like, all right, like I gotta read this book because like six different people recommend and people who I admire and trust and people who I like look up to too, right? So I don't know why it took me so long. And then I finally read that book and I was like, damn, like this book is amazing. It's like it was like my Bible of like my life. I feel like they summarized like my all my philosophies into like one book. And then now I give that book to like a lot of my mentees. But it's just funny, right? Like sometimes like you're just like stubborn, right? And then like you're
Right.
like, I should have listened to them.
Right, because it's like, you know, Dave, another thing is funny, like what I discovered, personal training. I've been personal training. I'm 28 now. I started training myself, like working out when I was 13, like about 12, 13. Then I started training people when I was 17, and I went into the kinesiology field. I was about 19, and then just kind of stuck with it for a long time. The number one thing that I've seen the problem with people is that they go after jobs harder than they do their own health. They go after things externally harder for themselves than they do anything internally. You know, and I got to do this for the job. I have to look like this because I have a shoot coming up. And in my mind, I'm like, you know, have you ever heard that term? Oh, I want to get a summer body.
Yeah.
And I say to people, why don't you just get it all year round? Why you just want it for the summer? Like, you know, like Leo, like how does your body stay like that? I work on it all summer. It's fall, winter, spring, and then the summer is just the icing on the cake. To be honest with you, Dave, I barely kind of work out in the summer. Like I have a lot of other things to do, so I kind of already put in the work throughout all the other seasons.
Yeah.
And once people acknowledge that they're more important than any job, any function, any party, they'll start to see the vitality in themselves.
Mm.
You know, because I think to me, I love the word vitality. I love it. Like it's the essence of your health. You know, and through time, what I've noticed is like people are like, you know, how you're 28 and you have all this knowledge in you. Because the thing about it is I don't want to put myself in a position to lose. That's the most important thing to me. I never want to be in a position to lose. I always want to have the opportunity to have the chance, because it's not guaranteed you're going to win all the time, but I have a chance to win. So if my health is in order, I don't have to worry about like that chance of losing because I already have that. I already have that, a weapon. That's a weapon to me. Your health is a weapon. Just think about it. The more healthier you are, the more you can produce, the more you can do. Right. But if you're doing your work, no rest, no recovery, no exercise, you're going to crash. And then the energy that you had to propel yourself in the work is going to crash too. Remember, if you crash, your job crashes. If you're up and running, your job up and runs. You know, and the better you put yourself in a state of health, the more quality you produce. Not quantity, more quality you produce.
What advice would you give to someone who, because I mean, you see it in New York City all the time, right? We're running around. We're like, we don't even have time to stop for like 30 seconds to say hi, right? To even have a conversation, right? And I'm not gonna lie, like I'm guilty of this too, like myself, like a lot of times, right? Especially as a New Yorker, because you just see everyone else like running around, like, oh, I got places to be, you know? But what advice would you give to someone who feels like they're just like on the hamster wheel, right? They keep going, like they don't have time to even like, because even like it's crazy, man. Like from like Monday to Friday, like sometimes I'm like, man, like I didn't even have time to eat like lunch today, and that's like the bare minimum, right? Like just to take care of my. But then like sometimes like you go by and it's like 5 o'clock, you're like, holy crap, like I haven't blinked once, like it's crazy.
Yeah.
I guess like how do you suggest someone to like pause, take a step back, kind of like focus on the health and take a breath, like, you know, maybe like close your eyes, meditate for like 5 minutes or something like that?
I mean, you know, it's interesting, Dave. I like that's the that's the drive too, that the negative drive that we were talking about earlier, the spiritual drive, and that's called an overdrive. Remember we talked about it earlier,
Mhm.
and I know it's gonna sound selfish, but how what I would recommend to people to do or say to themselves is simple. What about me? What about when you sit up there, you're going all over the place, and you're like, yeah, what's going on? And you say, but you know what? What about Dave? What about Leo? And then you look, and then you start saying, what about me? And when you question those things, you start to put a list. What I like to do is grab it, like, you know, of course, on your phone you have notes. You say, I ask myself, like, what did I miss out on the day? Oh, snap, I didn't eat.
Mm.
Oh, I forgot to call my mother. Oh,
Mm.
like having a little notebook or your notes is very important, because it's vital, because it stops the life that you're operating, and it helps you look at what you haven't done for yourself. And so taking 5 minutes, let's just like mathematically look at this. If you used to take 5 minutes out of 60 minutes, which equal to 1 hour, you're taking less than 1% out of your time to acknowledge yourself while still looking at your job. If you could take 5 minutes out of every hour that you're doing something, how many hours are in a day? 24. But if we take half of that, you do 12 times 5, that's 60 minutes. You're taking an hour out of your day, incrementally breaking it down to see yourself.
Mm.
So that's how, like, you know, for me, that's the best advice I can give somebody. Take 5 minutes, write what you're missing for that hour or what's to come. Acknowledge those things, acknowledge yourself, and respect yourself. A lot of people don't respect themselves enough to feel like they're bigger than the job that they're doing.
Mhm.
Like I said, you're more important than the job. Yeah, you got to get it done. Yes, this is a business, and yes, but at the same time, you have to understand, how are you going to operate with no food in your body for 12 hours and you keep going? How are you going to acknowledge, you know, your loved ones if you're making it seem like your job is more important than your loved ones in your life and everything else? Take 5 minutes out your day to text your significant siblings and your wife or whatever, you know, whatever's important to you. At the end of the day, those things matter too.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like there's a lot of days, I guess this is like the last week of our fiscal year. So my fiance will text me sometimes because she's at her parents' place because of like the COVID thing, but she'll be like, "Oh, babe, I haven't spoken to you all day. Like, how you doing?" You know. And then sometimes I'm just like, I'll get back to you on my like in 3 hours, like during my next break when I have 30 minutes scheduled to like go pee,
Right.
you know. But then to your point, like, is that the life that is that who I've become where I can't even like spend 5 minutes to send her like a nice like lovey-dovey note, like, hey, you know, I miss you, I can't wait to see you during the weekend or something, you know what I mean? Like just something little. It's like sometimes I'm just like, man, like have I become that person where I'm too busy to even like give a kiss on the forehead to my fiance, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
you know, like you when you reflect and think about it, it's like what's another $20,000? Like it's like at the end of the day, like that's not really as important, you know, as
Right.
yeah. So
Because it's like, you know, the thing, I believe me and you have this thing in common. Like, you know, we was talking in front of the building the other day. Sometimes we can have this drive to succeed too much. And some people are like, well, what problem is that? Like, you know, you're trying to succeed, but when you're over succeeding is way too much, especially if you're doing it by yourself. You know, it'd be one thing if, you know, you had help and you're doing all these things and you can literally have somebody, you know, like one of the kids you mentor stuff, help you for an hour and you could take another break for another hour. Like, you know, and those sometimes when we're succeeding, you know, you're in the process of succeeding, you're so caught up in the goal that you forget about yourself in the process. You know, the yourself in the process is more important than the goal. The goal is, you know, the goal is already a set thing. It's already a set conception. It's already there. It's always going to be there because you were the one that put that goal out there. So an example, I would like to complete 200 push-ups for the week. And my goal is 200. It's already set. But if Monday I miss out, Tuesday I miss out, I'm like, oh man, I got to overdrive. I got to do 50 a day. I miss out on Wednesday. Now I got to do 50 Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And now you're literally cramming all of these things, and then you're forgetting about yourself. You know, but if you took the little things, the increments, hey, you know what? I'm gonna do 25 a day. And I'm gonna leave it at that. I'll probably add some extra, you know, probably 10 each day, you know, make it 35, add another, you know, little stuff like that. Just throwing that as an example. Never, 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 never never put a goal ahead of yourself. Because the thing about it is you'll make the goal more important than you are yourself. And I think that people, I don't think people acknowledge that or take that seriously. I don't think people take themselves seriously. They'll rather wait on somebody to take them serious so they can be seen as serious. Like, think about it. You're not going to believe a trainer that's 350 pounds, you know, is telling you what to do. You're going to look at him like, whoa, like.
Actually, I have a question about that, because
Absolutely.
some trainers have like pretty good like knowledge, right? And they have good like conceptually, like intellectually, like they're very intelligent. But then I've also noticed, but then when you look at them, they look pretty average, like are pretty, you know what I mean? Like, so like, I guess, how do you explain that? Where like, I think they get it, like technically they're very sound, but then like when you look at them, like sometimes they're kind of like, it's not like you look like I don't know, like that for me, like that kind of like throws off, like that really like confuses me sometimes.
Well, yeah, like to answer that question, you know, a lot of people kind of ask me that, like, believe it or not, in the last 5 years, that's probably the most asked question. Hey, Leo, like, how can you differentiate, like, you know, trainers? Well, the first thing is that there's a lot of variables, you know, to training. A lot of times you might see somebody that's like technically sound, they know their stuff, but they don't have enough money or supply to fund their own business. So they don't have time to work out and do all these things to catch up to look like a trainer with the knowledge on top of that. Another variable is the fact that a lot of people today are going for their personal training certification because it has easier access now. A lot of people aren't passionate about personal training. They're doing it because they see other people doing it, and you know, you hear the numbers. Sometimes, Dave, what people have this thing is like when they hear you making a lot of money, they just want to jump into the field that you're in because you're making a lot of money, but they're not passionate about that. The thing about it is a lot of people don't have direction. And so a lot of people that are now trainers are people that see other people, hey, that's pretty cool, man. Like, you know, he's attracting people. I could put on tight clothes and look good, and, you know, and sometimes it's a false conception that they have in their mind that they're a part of something that they haven't even built themselves. And so the other variable is the fact that a lot of times you have that guy that is extremely cut up, huge, muscular, but has no knowledge. And the variable is that he thinks he knows everything. Like we're talking about the full cup of water. He doesn't want to empty it out. And I believe it or not, I was that guy at 21, where I literally, Dave, I'm 215 pounds. I feel like I was kind of had like the little semi Bruce Lee thing where I'm 215, but I can push 400. I could squat 470. I could bench press 315. I can curl 70-pound dumbbells. But I'm light for my height. Like I'm 6'4", 200. Like, you know, and I'm able to do all these things. So it's so many different variables how you can tell a real trainer from a false trainer is listening to them, listening to the knowledge that they have and their experiences. Ask trainers about their experiences, how many times they've been injured, how did they go about the injury, because those questions are things that they need to study in the field of kinesiology. You have to know those things. So once you, hey, like, you know, you ask me, oh, Leo, like, you know, how legit are you? Pretty much. You know, I went to school for it. I've been injured. I've recovered from those injuries. I've like, you know, even though I got diagnosed by a doctor physician, I still took it upon myself to know how these rehabilitation techniques work. I took the time to see those things. I've also put myself through these steps and also programmed myself to become a better person and to see. And I've also recorded my data as well. So when you hear those things from a trainer, that's like, okay, cool. You know, this guy knows what he's talking about. He knows how to program different people, because at the end of the day, Dave, I mean, you and I are built completely different. So I have to give you a different program than what I have. I can't give you the same thing that I have. And that's how you also tell a real trainer, is if they're giving the same program to a person that are completely different. You cannot do that. So that's how you can tell the difference between a real trainer, someone who's passionate, who is experienced, who's all of these things. Like, you know, an example, Dave, you know, Tim downstairs. Tim is not a trainer, but he's been through enough where, you know, you can pretty much call him a trainer because he put himself through that.
Right. Yeah, Tim's an interesting guy. Like I feel like he's a good dude. I'm curious, how did you like hear about this opportunity? Because it seems like you guys all know each other pretty well. Like you guys are all pretty tight.
Well, like my dad, like, you know, the super of the building, you know, I was interested. I've been working to, like I said, I've been also working since I was 13. I went to Bishop Lachlan Memorial High School, got a basketball scholarship there. And I'm really, really close to my dad. Like, you know, I'm really close to my dad. And I went to school with Matthew, who's his son. And I was pretty much, we were pretty much together since we was 10 years old. And so when I got older, I got tired of going to the west side on 50th and 11th Avenue. And I asked my dad, hey, is anybody, you know, do you mind hiring me? I mean, I'll do whatever it takes. You know, if you need me to work at night, 12 to 8, whatever. And at that time, the doorman job was fully booked. You know, you had a lot of older dudes that had seniority, already been in the game for like 20, 30 years. So then one of the doormans gets sick, really bad. And my dad asked me, here's your chance, you know, come be on time, make sure that, you know, you have your uniform. And I kid you not, Dave, my first day, I'll never forget. It was 2011, graduating high school. It was 2 months before I went to college. And Dave, I'll never forget, I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I was supposed to start at 8 in the morning. I woke up at 5 and I made sure I was up, ready to go. I made sure I was punctual. I was there literally at 7:45, 7:50. I made sure I was ready, dressed, had everything prompt. Because the thing about it, I had to show my dad, you know, that you're not just hiring your son, you're hiring a good employee as well. Because at the end of the day, I don't mix family with business. At the end of the day, I look at my dad when it's time for a boss, like, you know, when it's time for work, I look at my dad as a boss. I respect him like a boss. I respect him as a dad as well, but I take the image of a dad and I remove it from those hours. So, yeah, that's how I got to that job.
And then, so you also played collegiate basketball as well?
Yes.
Dude, that must be tough, right? That's kind of like almost like the Navy SEALs, right? Like you just like
right. And like the thing about it, Dave, like we had talked about not giving up and you know, not quitting. You know, I'm gonna be open on this podcast and stuff. Like I've been to 6 different colleges, and I just got my bachelor's this year. I had for a long time. I had the difficulty. I had a reading problem. I had a writing problem. I had a cognitive problem, and so I would use basketball as an outlet to kind of show and display the arts of the body in a different way, because I couldn't read and write at the time. Like when I started learning how to read and write well in 6th grade, you know, because I was getting into trouble so much. Like I said, I was raised in a project, so like we were just doing a whole bunch of dumb stuff. So through time, I used basketball as an instrument to kind of get me where I needed, because I'm like, oh, you can get money to go to school to throw an orange ball inside of this cylinder. Oh yeah, it's perfect. So when I was growing up, Dave, I didn't know I was gonna be 6'4". My father is 5'5". My mother's 5'6", 5'7" on a good day. 5'8". So I'm like, you know, I start seeing all these guys playing basketball. So I got a scholarship to go to, you know, to Bishop Lockwood Memorial High School. In the process of that, I was going to University of Rhode Island basketball camp. I was going to all these camps to be seen. The number one thing that I kind of messed up on, I had an attitude problem. I had a real big attitude problem. My ego was huge. I'm the best guy in the gym. I'm this. I'm lights out. I'm like, you know, and I failed to realize that basketball, there's so many variables to becoming a good player. I myself, to be honest, I myself kind of like derailed my career because of myself. Not because anybody else did, was because I kind of like I was stuck in this way. I was stubborn. Like I'm the best. You should be using me. I'll work everybody. I'm doing this and I'm doing that. So when I got recruited to go to the University of Maine up in Orono, I failed to realize that, hey, Leo, yeah, your basketball talent is nice, but you still need the SAT scores for you to maintain in the school. So I'm in a summer program with the school. They did a reevaluation of all my credits and everything. I didn't qualify to stay in the school. So the coach tells me, hey, Leo, we're gonna send you to a Division II school, University of Maine at Augusta, and you know, based upon your performances and grade, we'll shoot you back up to the Division I school. So that never happened because that year my mother got deported back to Dominican Republic. My mind is all over the place. I don't even know how I still managed to get all conference as a freshman. You know, going to the school, my grades was a 1.9. It was difficult because not only am I the captain of the team, but I'm setting a bad example. And a lot of people were upset at me, like, you know, hey, Leo, like, how are you doing this? But yeah, like, coaches give you this. And to bring your point back with the Navy SEALs, it was tough. Getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, running through 2-3 miles. And I'm not talking about flatland miles. I'm talking about uphill, downhill miles. You know, after that, you have to go to the classroom, study, have individual workouts from individual. You have to have team workouts. Then you have to find time to study, eat, put the nutrition back in your body, have a social life. It's extremely tough. And then I got into boxing. You know, boxing is also tough because the way that you use your body in basketball isn't the way you do it in boxing. And so, you know, the toughest thing playing collegiate basketball is understanding the role that you play on your team. Because even though you may think you're a scorer on the team, that's not what the coach wants you to do. You know, because in high school, what coaches would call me is the utility man, because I can do a little bit of everything. I can rebound, I can shoot the ball. I know the game very well, IQ-wise. So a coach would put me where things weren't really being done. Like if we was missing a rebounds, I would go just focus on rebound if we needed scoring. And so when I got to college, I didn't really realize, you know, that sometimes they don't need you as these things. I got so used to being everything that when a coach needed me to be one thing, I didn't know how to be that because I was so programmed, and every coach has a different philosophy. There's prejudice and racism in collegiate basketball. Believe it or not, it's still very well and alive. The stereotypes are very well and alive. What I mean by stereotype is Dominican Italian basketball players aren't supposed to be there. We're supposed to be playing baseball or soccer.
Yeah.
So when they look at me and I'm putting the 20 points on the board with 6 to 7 rebounds and 3 assists, it's like, whoa, you're not that, you know, you're not that guy that matches with the stereotype. You're not that black guy that's putting up 20. It doesn't match. No. So let's limit his minutes because it's not making sense to me. A lot of coaches have cognitive biases as well too.
It kind of reminds me, I remember watching Jeremy Lin's biography and like think about like how many Asians there are in basketball. Like oof, shit that he had to go through. Like
I love Jeremy Lin. Like I remember clear as day in 2012, I was finishing my first year in college, and he was with the New York Knicks, and Carmelo Anthony went down, and like to be honest with you, that him and Yao Ming were the people to destroy the stereotype of basketball for me. Like
Yeah.
And that's why I named my business Universal Expressions, because everybody has the right to express themselves. After Jeremy Lin had that explosive moment in basketball, I kid you not, I looked at Asian basketball players so different. You know, it was interesting, Dave. I remember I went to the park at Second Avenue, in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and there's a high population of Asian people there. And I went to go play basketball. And I'll never forget, like, I got in front of this Asian kid and I was kind of scared for some reason. Like, oh my God, like, because, you know, if Jeremy Lin could just come out of nowhere and do this,
Yeah.
what can he do now? Because remember, Jeremy Lin gave confidence to a whole bunch of Asians too.
Yeah.
And that day, you know, Dave, I got my ass handed to me by a whole bunch of Asians.
Hey, that's
So
cool.
it was an eye opener for me, you know. And like another experience that I had was when I was in high school. We played a school called Grover Cleveland. There was an Arabic kid on the team. And I remember they used to make these jokes, which I used to hate. Oh, like, you know, because he's Arabic, when we say the word, oh, he's explosive on the court, that means he's going to blow up the court, which is so ignorant.
Oh, God.
Is ignorant beyond ignorant.
Yeah.
This kid, I'll never forget, this kid had 30 points on us.
Wow.
In one half.
It's crazy.
And I'm looking at him like, you know, because everybody thinks like, you know, that I'm Arabic sometimes, depending upon like, you know, what type of haircut I get, you know. And people thought I was Arabic. And when the kid comes up to me, he was like, you know, I thought, you know, he started saying salam alaikum salam, which is a greeting in Arabic in a, you know, Muslim community. And I'm like looking at him like, bro, I'm not Muslim, I'm Dominican. And when I found out he's Arabic, I'm like, oh my God, like, you know, it's just so many different cultures destroyed my vision of stereotypes, that I don't even have I don't have those stereotypes no more, because they literally, like, the majority of the ethnic groups that I've encountered, they kind of destroyed those things for me. You know, and I'm like, oh snap, Arabic people can play basketball, Asian people, oh my God. Like Mexican, oh my God, don't let me get started in California. Mexican basketball players, I thought they were just soccer players, you know, and hard workers. No, they can play basketball as well too. Like, you know, it's just so fascinating to see that there's so many people, so many ethnic groups, so many different cultures can do these things that we put on them that they can't do.
Yeah.
You know?
I was watching on Netflix, I was watching this documentary about this Indian guy who he actually ended up getting drafted by the Mavericks. There was an Indian guy who you know, grew up like in a pretty poor town where like even the basketball courts, like stadium they had like leaks and holes, and like, you know, it was like not the best facilities. But he was like 7 feet something.
7'2", I know you're talking about.
What you talking about?
Yeah, and then he got they put him on the Sacramento Kings because the owner of the Sacramento Kings is he's from India, and I believe he's the guy that made Wi-Fi. Like, he comes from that descendant. Like, he invented Wi-Fi and stuff. So he bought the Sacramento Kings. He brought him over to the Sacramento Kings. He put him on a G League team so that he could develop, because 7'2", to move your body at 7'2", 340 pounds, is really tough, especially on the heart too. Like, you know, for you to pump all that stuff. That's another thing people fail to realize is, like, you know, tall people have a hard life. People don't know. Things are longer for them to do. You know, people's like, oh, you know, that's normal. No, the average person in the world, man or woman, is 5'8", 5'9". That's the average height. If you're above 6 feet, you're a part of the 15 to 20% of the world. That's not a lot. If you go to 100%, that's only 1/5 of the world. You know, so. With that being said, yeah, Dave, like, the stereotypes of basketball players and, you know, coaches was just like, people would prove me wrong time and time after again. I love it. In the beginning, did I get mad about it? Or absolutely, like, you know, you just destroyed my beliefs. Now I got to sit there and restructure everything. But I enjoy it because it lets me know that I'm capable of learning. I'm capable of adjusting. I'm capable of adapting. And that's the thing too, is like, you know, with fitness and everything, the best thing I've ever encountered or discovered was the fact that I'm a chameleon. Like everybody, you can be a chameleon. You can adapt to so many different things, you know, because when I first started working out, I was just like what we call a meathead. I was just inside of the weight room, working out, pushing weights all day. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I didn't know I could box because everybody puts you in this box where, hey, you only could lift weights, you can only do this. You can't be a boxer. You're not a professional boxer. You haven't got trained, so you can't box. Or you can't play basketball because all you do is go to the weight room. So I'm like, wait a minute. Those are things you're telling me. Those ain't things I haven't even attempted. Let me attempt. I think the word attempt is better than the word try. Because when you're trying, the trying is you're trying to do what you don't know. When you attempt, you're taking yourself and you're taking a crack at it. You're taking the smallest, like, you know what, I'm gonna attempt that new drink. But when you're trying, you're constantly in the process of doing the same thing that you tried before. An attempt is like, oh, I'll try one time. So I would rather people attempt, you know, these things than rather to try. But yes.
Well, thank you. I think we've had like a pretty awesome conversation. I feel like there was a lot about be careful of putting someone in a box, right? I think like learning, being honest with ourselves and like where have I like prejudged someone or where has I told someone they probably can't do something because they act a certain way or like I think it's interesting to have these conversations because I think we all have our own like preconceived notions, right? Where we think like, oh yeah, like that's probably not, or I'll never be able to do that because like whatever it is, like because so I do think it's important to you know be the first, like be the pioneer. If no one has done it, then why don't you just be the pioneer? Try at least try it. You never know. So
Right.
thank you.
No, no problem. The thing about it is speaking like this sometimes comes with backlashes as well because a lot of time you're distorting people's realities and people don't want their realities distorted. I don't not necessarily saying I'm coming into your life and I'm telling you, hey, change your life right now. I'm the boss. Listen to me. No, what I call myself is more when it comes down to personal training. Another word I would use is a mentor, a guy, like almost like a guidance counselor. I'm not here to baby you. I'm not here to sit up here and tell you what to do. All I'm telling you is things that help me change my life and the ingredients that I can give you to change your life.
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, it's you. I only could do so. I've already done my part for me. All I'm trying to do is help you become a better person. And if you don't want to become a better person, that's your choice and decision. The only thing I can do is tell you how to get there. And so, going back to the whole box thing, if you want to live in that box, then that's fine with me too. Whatever it is you want to find fulfillment in, I will help you with that too. And so at the end of the day, I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna sit up here and baby you and do all these things. What I am gonna do is, if you're looking for me, I'm looking for you, and if I'm looking for you, then you must be looking for me. And that's why like you get the majority of your results when you're going after it, right? Rather than it just being put in your face. And that's why, like when I promote my business, I don't sit up here and tell you, hey, come with me that I'm gonna help you lose 10 pounds in a week, and now you're gonna be this person. No, I give you the reality of what's going on within yourself because I've studied it for so long that I just can't give you the lie. A lot of people give you the lie to satisfy the moment. I'm not gonna give you this. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna give you the satisfaction of the moment. What I'm gonna give you is the satisfaction of the longevity.
Mm.
See,
Yeah.
everybody, like, don't get me wrong, the moments are important, but don't live in the moments where it's gonna literally add up to your destruction. Think about it. When you have a drink, it's a moment. But if you add 10 moments of those drinks,
Mm.
those they add up. But
Mhm.
if you could take 2 moments take 2 moments to drink. But then if you could take 5 to eat healthy, work out, read a book, take a walk, check up on your family, then the positive outweigh the negatives. I'm not saying, hey, live your life without any negatives. You need the negatives, the yin and yang. You always need the negative. And people always think negative is bad. Negative sometimes could be the subtraction sign. Take away from your life. Hey, you know that friend that just wants to drink all day? Subtract them out of your life. That's a negative. I'm sorry, I love them to death, but you're not helping me become a better person.
Mm.
And sometimes that's what we know. I call it a protective barrier where we protect our friends because we love them. Oh, I'll go drinking with him because that's my friend. He needs this. And sometimes that friend sometimes can abuse that power that they have over you. Oh, come for drinks, come for drinks. If you go out 5 days out of the week, Dave, you have 2 drinks a day. That's 10 drinks you had in a week.
No.
But you're not realizing that because that's your friend.
Mm.
And just the whole point that I'm just trying to make is just the fact that 1, be aware of yourself and what you do. 2, always acknowledge the importance of what you do. And 3, always be mindful of your environment and surroundings. And with all 3 of those things, you can formulate things that you need for yourself. Not for your friend, not for your mother, your brother, your father, whoever, yourself.
Mm. The timely message. I think, when you can take care, because everything comes from within, right? So when we take care of ourselves first, that's when we have the energy and be able to like be truly ourselves, right? And not because like someone else wants you to do something. I think when it comes from within, that's when we become the most successful, because we know it's like, this is who I am, instead of like what my boss wants me to do or what my coach, you know what I mean? Like it's like,
Right.
to come from within first, right? But
Right.
then also being receptive to have mentors and guides and people to help you that, have gone through that journey. So then you could learn from their mistakes and their experience as well.
Right. And one of the best advice I can give people too, in their journey, don't ever think there's a dumb question out there. Ask, 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 ask. It was interesting when I was coaching. I was the head coach of my JV basketball team at my old high school, and I was like, I coached the varsity on the side. And I remember I had this kid on my team named Julio. Julio literally would ask me, Coach, how can I get better? What can I do to do this? Coach, like, I don't feel like that thought was right. Like, how do I sit up there and go about this? Like, that to me means everything. Not because he's asking the questions, but the curiosity of like getting to become better. And mind you, this kid is only 16.
Yeah.
Hey, Coach, what's that? What are you eating? What's that? What's that in the jar? Like, why are you eating those granolas during this time? Why are you eating blueberries in the morning? Why are you not having a bacon, egg, and cheese? Because the average kid, let's just be honest, in New York City is having a bacon, egg, and cheese in the morning with Arizona.
Right.
So when he's looking at me and the first thing I have is a fruit bowl with acai and like, and a jug of coconut water. They're like, whoa, like, what is that? Like, whoa, like, why are you stretching? Nobody stretches. Whoa, why are you sitting up here warming up? So it's the good, like going back to the questions, ask questions. If you have a trainer, if you have a mentor, you have any guy, like any guidance counselor or whoever your therapist, ask them as many questions as you need to know and write them down. Right? Don't be afraid. A lot of people, I feel like they're afraid to ask because of the reaction and the response that they're going to get. And a lot of times you miss out on the answer because of the fear of asking. Don't be afraid to ask. The knowledge, my abbreviation for ask is always seek knowledge.
Mm.
The abbreviation ask, A-S-K, A for always, S for seek, and K for knowledge. You're not going to know if you don't ask. I'd rather at the end of the day get a no than to not ask.
Right.
At least I took the shot.
I love. Well, thanks, Leo. This has been an amazing conversation, and I'm excited to share with the world your wisdom and your thought process. And I think a lot of people will get a lot out of it.
Yeah, thank you. I can't thank you enough. You know, for those that want to follow me on Instagram, my handle is Universal Expressions Philly. That is spelled UNIVERSALEXPRESSIONS Philly PHILLY on Instagram.
I'll
Thank you, Dave.
yeah, I'll link your website and your social media as well. So
Thank you, Dave. I can't thank you enough. I mean, this is my first podcast ever in my life, so
nice.
um,
First,
I'm
should there be many, many more?
yeah, I'm no, I can't thank you enough. You know, just for the opportunity, because you know, I didn't know. You know, me working as a doorman, I've been seeing you for a long time, and I never thought you did podcasts, and I never thought you know you doing the things you did. So I'm truly grateful, and I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart, and you know, I can't wait for people to hear it.
Yeah, I think this will be interesting. I enjoyed our conversation. I think there's a lot of good takeaways from it. Thank you.
No problem, Dave. Thank you. Whenever you need, you know, I'm here, man.
Likewise.
All right, Dave. You have a good day. Thank you.
Too.
Bye.